Mr. Higgins said, slapping his forehead again. I'm so upset, I forgot again. The next morning, the sterile scent of the hospital was almost suffocating. Daisy, however, looked remarkably cheerful, devouring a tray of hospital breakfast. Dr. Todd entered the room, a warm smile on her face. The test came back negative, and the x-ray showed nothing. You're fine, Daisy. Daisy beamed. Well, I could have told you that, and I wouldn't have charged you anything. A nurse arrived with another tray. Here's the second breakfast you ordered, Daisy. Oh, thank you, Daisy said, reaching for a muffin. Chloe, who had just arrived with Max, looked aghast. Daisy, you shouldn't eat all that. You ought to thank me for getting rid of this hospital food before any sick people eat it, Daisy declared, already halfway through a pancake. Dr. Todd chuckled. There was no answer when I called your roommates. They must have left already. Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Daisy said to Max and Chloe. Well, they won't mind when they hear the good news. She looked at Dr. Todd again. Are you sure I'm okay? I'm not going to fall on my face somewhere. No, Dr. Todd assured her. Not even when I trip. Oh, no. Yes, of course. When you trip, Dr. Todd amended with a smile. And when you get my bill, that's my little joke. Yes, Daisy, the dizziness was caused by an inner ear disturbance, but I can say definitely that now you're perfectly normal. Daisy clapped her hands. Well, you must be a great doctor, because I never was before. Dr. Todd laughed. Daisy, you're some character. You know what I was thinking last night, Doctor? I can hardly wait to hear, Dr. Todd replied, amused. Well, I was lying here last night, and I was thinking how practical God was when he made us, Daisy began. How do you mean? Max asked, bracing himself. Well, for instance, take our ears. Not only are they good to hear from, they're in the perfect place for holding up our glasses, Daisy explained, pointing to her ears. Dr. Todd nodded thoughtfully. I can't argue with that. And he gave us not 9, not 11, but 10 fingers, which is the perfect amount for counting, Daisy continued, holding up her hands. And this is it. Wonderful that you put our arms on top of our hands. Max looked confused. I'd hate your pardon. Well, if it weren't for our arms, our hands would hang from our shoulders like this, Daisy demonstrated, letting her arms flop. Look, we won't be able to scrunch our backs. Chloe, who had been listening in silent awe, suddenly gasped. Are you jumping, Chloe? Max asked. Yes. Is there any news about Daisy Meadows? She asked Dr. Todd, her voice filled with desperate hope. Dr. Todd smiled. The doctor better tell you. He's with her now. Thank you. She exited the room. Chloe rushed to Max. Doctor, how's Daisy? Max's face was unreadable. Oh, she can go at any time. Chloe's face crumpled. She can go any time. Yes, I'm sorry. She looked at Max, tears welling up again. Does Daisy know? Yes, I just told her. Max confirmed, his voice flat. Chloe started to cry, embracing Max. Oh, I'm gonna miss that girl. Daisy, hearing their conversation, poked her head out from behind the curtain separating her bed from the hallway. Hi, Daisy, Max said, trying to sound cheerful despite the lump in his throat. Oh, hi, Daisy chirped, stepping out fully. I'm so happy to see you both. Chloe looked at Max, utterly bewildered. Oh gosh, we're glad to see you too. Did you talk to the doctor? Yes, and you know. Max nodded, equally confused. Yeah, how do you feel? Max asked, cautiously. Oh, fine. The not knowing was the worst part of it, Daisy replied, utterly oblivious to their grief. Chloe stifled a sob. Oh, Daisy, I'm sorry. Hey, how are you guys? You've been so terrific through all of this, Daisy said warmly. Daisy, you shouldn't be thinking about us now, Chloe managed to choke out. Oh, yeah, Daisy continued. her eyes bright. You know, as long as I live, I'll never forget how super you both were. Daisy, is there anything that you want? I mean, anything. You name it, Max offered, fighting back tears. Well, before I go, I would like to go around and say goodbye to all the nurses. They made it lots easier, Daisy said, genuinely touched. Oh, sure, honey, Chloe whispered, her heart breaking. Oh, Max, well, it's almost over. We're hospitals, no more worrying about me. Soon this will all just be a memory. Max turned away, a tear escaping his eye. What's wrong? Just something in my eye, he mumbled. Daisy, did the doctor say when? When what? When you'd be going? Chloe finally managed to ask. He said around noon, Daisy replied. So fast, Chloe wailed. You know, I wish this were in a hospital. I'd just love to shoot off some firecrackers, really go out with a bang. Don't worry, boss, I wouldn't really do it. She noticed the nurses looking at them strangely. Excuse me too, Max said, wiping his eyes. I'll be right back. Chloe grabbed Max's arm. What's the matter with you guys? Max, why does it always have to happen to the good ones? I have never seen anybody so brave. We're gonna have to be brave for Daisy, okay? Can you pull yourself together? Max urged. Just then, Mr. Higgins, looking distraught, rushed into the room, carrying a bouquet of wilting flowers. Hi, I got here as quickly as I could. I brought these for Daisy. Oh, I'm sure she appreciates them, Chloe said, trying to be polite. Yeah, the nurse told me about Daisy. Make sure these go with her. Mr. Higgins looked genuinely concerned. Chloe stared at him, bewildered. You're worried about what happens to the flowers. Well, sure. There's no sense in leaving them behind, Mr. Higgins said, oblivious. Oh, and if you wrap things up here by 12, you won't have to pay for another day. Max, his patience completely gone, snarled, the money isn't important. You mean she's covered by insurance? Mr. Higgins, please stop talking about things like that, Chloe cried. Well, it doesn't hurt to be a little practical, Mr. Higgins insisted. You just drop it, Max yelled, clenching his fists. The important thing is Daisy. We want to spend every moment we can with her. Well, fine, but when it's all over here, you can take her home, prop her up on a sofa with some pillows, and stare at her all day, Mr. Higgins suggested helpfully. Max looked at Chloe. I'm gonna choke this man. I'm gonna choke him. I'm gonna put my hands around the man's neck. Daisy, who had returned from her goodbyes to the nurses, skipped into the room. Oh, hi, Mr. Higgins, Chrissy, best wishes. Oh, thank you. You're so lovely, Daisy replied, taking the wilting flowers. Excuse me, she held them up to her nose. Chloe, still reeling, saw Daisy getting ready to leave. Daisy, you should be back in bed. Why, I have to get dressed, so I'll be ready to leave, Daisy said, heading towards her locker. Leave, you can't believe Daisy. You're supposed to be Carrie. Are you still here? Daisy, hospitals are only for sick people, Dr. Todd said, entering the room with a wide smile. Max and Chloe stared, dumbfounded. Well, yes, but you know, this girl is the funniest patient I've ever had. She had me laughing so hard, I was crying. You mean she's all right? Dr. Todd looked at them, surprised by their reaction. All right. All my patients were like her. I'd be out of business. Well, have a nice trip home. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, doctor. Thank you, Max and Chloe chorused, utterly shell-shocked. Max fumbled for his phone. I'll call a cab. Daisy looked at their stunned faces. What's the matter? Oh, everything is all right. You're well, Daisy, you're well. Chloe suddenly shrieked with joy, throwing her arms around Daisy. Oh, Daisy, you're well. Daisy, well, what are you so excited about? Well, you see, we thought that we'd lost you.